Hello and a very warm welcome to yet another episode of the We Talk Talent series. Those who have been following us know that the We Talk Talent series is a special initiative by the Economic Times ETHRWorld, where we talk to senior HR professionals about the ongoing trends in the human capital space. And I'm very delighted to welcome today's guest with us, Ms. Savita Hortikar, Head of Recruitment, ThoughtWorks India. Savita is a recruitment professional with over 22 years of experience in managing and building winning teams. She has proven experience in recruiting and building and managing the talent acquisition teams in both product development and IT consulting, companies like Oracle, Yahoo, and IBM Labs. Her expertise spans across hiring for senior leadership, senior tech roles, university college hiring, diverse hiring, and managing recruitment programs, operation, and systems. Building winning teams, running change initiatives, employer branding, social media recruitment, conceptualizing and advocating the use of tech in recruitment, and champion diversity and inclusion at workplace are her core interest areas and focus. Welcome, Savita.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for the introduction. Thanks for the opportunity. It's a pleasure meeting you and talking to you today.
Same. So, without any further ado, I will straight jump into my first question. And I will request you to share a brief overview of the disruption and transformation taking place in your industry and how it has affected the hiring strategy concerning the sourcing, selection, and pipeline management post the pandemic.
Yeah. So if you look at the disruption and transformation in the IT industry itself over the last few years, we have seen that the IT industry has evolved from just having jobs that were outsourced to India in the 20 years ago, from being a center for BPO and KPO in organizations. We have grown into having IT industry there where major products and platforms are built, and now we have moved into the startup world where a lot of innovative work is getting done. And because of the change in the IT industry itself, the HR industry also went through a disruption and transformation because the workforce changed. It changed from having low end work getting done by engineers to something so high end innovative work getting done. So this whole changes if you look at it, every 5 years there has been some major change or the other happening in the IT industry. And that led to the change in the HR industry as well. So HR industry went from being just having administrative function that it started off, then it moved into having some bit of HR practices, and then into a more strategic area. And now HR is a more of a business partner and a trusted advisor to business, because HR has to align itself to business. The workforce that today's companies need or organization need has undergone a major transformation in the last 20 years. So this is the biggest transformation, and the key enabler for this transformation has been the change in the technology, the use of mobile devices, the use of intelligence software like data sciences, machine learning, AI, whether it is to attract higher diverse set of people or even retain the different set of these people once they are hired, has led to this big transformation and the disruption in the industry itself. Now coming to the pandemic piece, the pandemic, of course, fast forwarded all this digital transformation. Even companies that were slow to adapt had to change themselves totally because of the COVID pandemic that happened 3 years ago. And post-pandemic, it continues, and all the companies have changed the way in which they source, select, and also manage the pipeline of candidates, post this pandemic. So when this pandemic happened, and also post-pandemic, one of the guiding principles that we had in a strategy concerning sourcing, selection, or the pipeline management were three important things. One is, how the health and safety of the candidates, the panelists, as well as the thought workers who were doing the interviews, and the recruiters was the most important thing to be taken care of. The second thing was how not to compromise on the quality of the hires or the number of hires that we had to do, and based on the organizational needs. And third one was how to give candidates a good experience And also the panelists and the recruiters and the schedulers and all the people involved in this entire journey, we did not want to compromise on the experience that was being given to them. And lastly, one of the things that I personally thought of was, how do you find a good opportunity in this adversity or the disruption that this COVID pandemic has got in, right? Someone has famously said that never let a crisis go in waste. And so there were some silver linings to this, to the what the pandemic has got in, and helped us to force us to think out of the box, forced us to come up with creative and innovative solutions when it came to sourcing, selection, and your pipeline management. The first one, of course, was the very obvious one, that our hiring had to go 100% remote. Although earlier we had a mix of remote and in-person interviews, now we had to move everything to 100% remote. So what we did was we did a project where we looked at mapping the journey of the candidate, the interviewer, and the recruiter in this entire process. And what were the interventions that we had to done at each step? What kind of new techniques and tools had to be adopted in order to make this successful? And how do we pivot the current processes? And how do we mirror the in-person interviews online? And what are the changes that we need to do in the mindset? What kind of training that had to be provided to both the candidates as well as the interviewers so that they can adapt to this new process? And how do we take evidence-based decisions, although we are not meeting the candidate in person? And at the same time, also, how do we entice the candidate to accept our jobs, to come to ThoughtWorks and join us, though we are not meeting them face to face, and the interaction is very tactical. It's very much over a phone or over a video call or through emails. So our whole communication strategy had to change as well. So all these things, we did all these things for the selection, sourcing, strategy when it came to that. And also, this also helped us to source candidates from the tier 2, tier 3 cities, because with work from home, the candidate pool overnight, expanded. We no longer were looking at the locations where we had our offices, but we also looked at places outside where we did not look before, and we were able to hire people and talent from different parts of India as well. So this disruption happened, but it has also helped us change and improve our systems, bring in more tools and techniques technology, using more of technology into our recruitment process. And definitely there were some big changes that have happened, but overall, we are now used to the new normal, as they call it.
Yeah, thank you, Savita, for all those points. I totally agree with that point that you made, that it has opened a lot of more opportunities for employees and also for employers, because there is no geographical boundaries restricting the talent pool anymore.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it has come with a lot of challenges. So I would like you to share, if you could share some of the challenges that you have been seeing in TA space now, and how do you planning to overcome those?
Yeah. See, the biggest challenge that what I saw in this was the mind shift change. With overnight people working from home and the processes moving 100%, and people had to really take decisions without meeting the candidate. And people were very jittery. The hiring managers were jittery. We were worried about what will happen. What kind of candidates are we going to hire? Is it going to impact the culture? Is it going to impact the quality of the candidates? So for us to get a head around it and say that, yes, we will be able to manage this, although it is 100% remote, that itself took a little bit of a time. And then people were very worried about taking the decisions. Earlier, with 1 or 2 interviews, if the decision was taken, now people wanted to have another round of interviews. People were second guessing themselves. So we had to, and that increased the cycle time to hire. And so we had to bring about all these changes in the proper education and training. And like I said, using data, using evidence-based systems, to hire the right kind of candidates. So that was one of the challenges, internal challenges, what we had. Then externally, of course, post-pandemic, there's a boom in the market. There is a sudden influx of jobs. Then people who are not looking to change jobs itself were also enticed to change the jobs. And the startup industry has brought about a lot of competition. Everyone is looking for the same kind of talent. So it's a demand supply problem, I should say. And with the remote working, a lot of startups and even companies that are located outside of India are hiring people within India because there is no geographical boundaries, like you mentioned, rightly mentioned. So those are some of the issues that we have. And the 100% remote working and working from home also has, made it a little more harder for the candidates to find a bond with the company that they are working with, and to imbibe the culture. So culture of the company can only happen when people sit together and work, and and interact, and there is more in-person interaction. Otherwise, it is very difficult to do it over a Zoom call. All this has led to high rates of attrition within the most of the organizations, and those are some of the very big challenges that we are facing. Also, the whole 2-month notice period policy in India, in most of the companies, also has helped candidates shop around, look around for better options, more and more better options, more and more lucrative options. And it's a free market, so wouldn't blame them for doing that. But that has really impacted the businesses in most of the organizations. And these are the biggest challenges that we have right now.
Yeah, totally. Be it attrition or great resignation or attrition or the layoff. But the war for talent is going on either ways.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from your opinion. I would like you to throw some light on your DE&I agenda, since you have been really passionate about these kind of initiatives. Yeah, so if you could share some of the initiative with us.
Yeah. So at ThoughtWorks, diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been fundamental to our values, to our business, to our culture, and to our community. So ensuring that we link our D&I strategy to our business has been very intentional for us. And it is not one of the things that we say this is good to have, but it is a mandatory thing for us. And hence what we have done is that we all constantly are pushing boundaries, and we are trying to create a community that helps all the individuals to to grow, to belong, to feel safe, valued, respected within ThoughtWorks. So all this has led to, there is a lot of unlearning and learning that has to be done to change this, right? There has to be a change in the mindsets of people, the practices, the behaviors, everything has to change to bring about this change within the organization. So what we have in ThoughtWorks is a very holistic approach. So there are 4 areas that we look at when we want to push our D&I agenda in the organization. The first one is the obvious one, which is finding and nurturing the diverse talent. That is, we look for talent beyond what is usually available in the market, or beyond what everyone else does. So that means hiring specifically for WUGM, or called as women and underrepresented minorities. Those are the LGBTQ, and then looking for people with disabilities, looking for geographical diversity, not just in, it's not restricted only to gender. So when we hire from campus, we go to northeastern part of India and hire. We go to tier 2, tier 3 cities and look at colleges from there and campuses from there and hire a talent. And so that helps us bring a very diverse talent into the workforce. And then the next one is on advancement and opportunities. We are very intentional about giving the same opportunities for everyone within the organization. For example, if we're having a leadership development program, we look for representation of all the different underrepresented minorities. We look for more representation of women. In fact, we do not start our leadership development programs unless we have 40% women in it. And all this has, the intentional work has paid off in the long run for us. Then the third one is on the inclusion and the belonging piece. While it is easy to hire, and do a bunch of programs and bring people, how do you make sure that they feel included and belong and feel get a sense of belongingness within the organization, right? So this means changing the mindset of people. So we do unconscious bias training regularly within the organization. We have affinity groups within the organization. And that helps people come in and feel included, within the company. It is not hiring different types of people is not just a vanity metrics for us. It is something that we are very intentional, because we know that this will bring about long-term positive social change as well. And we feel that we have, as technologists or as people in the IT industry, we have the privilege of bringing about this change. What we look for is not about how do you make D&I big in ThoughtWorks, but also the impact it is going to bring in the long run in the society as well. So that is basically our bigger agenda, what we have in mind, and the impact is more important for us. So as a part of it, whether we do any community events, whether we do any celebration, whether it is hiring, onboarding, we look at everything with an inclusion and belonging lens, and tailor all these interventions, tailor all our programs with this in mind. Then lastly, it is attention and people policies as well, whether it's giving flexi working hours or whether it's having people-friendly policies, specific policies that will help people from the LGBTQ community. We do all that. We have tailored that. We have factored all that within our within our people policies, and all this helps us in the long run in driving our D&I agenda. And things like having pay parity within the organization, the gender pay gap, bridging the gender pay gap that is there. We have been very intentional about doing all these interventions over the years. And then for ThoughtWorks, D&I was something what we were looking at from a very long time, long before the other organizations in the IT industry caught up with it. In fact, the 6-month maternity leave that is now mandated by the government was a policy in ThoughtWorks 3 years before the government mandated it. So we've been the front runners in all these programs, or say in bringing women back to work in the tech space. We have our flagship program called WAPSI, where we look at women who have taken a break and want to come back, and we go find them, especially in the tech jobs. So our goal is to increase the number of women in technology. So we bring them back, we give them a training, we give them internship, and then we offer them full-time jobs as well. So these are some of the very interesting and new things that we are doing in the D&I space at ThoughtWorks.
Actually, listening to all those initiatives and how things have been changing in the industries naturally gives a big smile to my face whenever I listen to all those steps taken by the industries. Thank you so much, Savita, for sharing all those points.
Yeah, thank you, Priya.
Thank you so much.